Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a privilege to follow my colleague, our incredible Minister of Finance, and to speak in support of Bill 97, a plan to protect Ontario. And this budget reflects the leadership of one particular person who has led by example since June of 2018, and that's our Premier, the Honourable Doug Ford. Mr. Speaker, please let me share my own enthusiasm and love for our province, and let me share to those in the legislature today some remarks I gave just a few weeks ago when I had the privilege of watching almost 525 incredible individuals graduate their basic constable training at the Ontario Police College in Elmer, Ontario. And that day was a special day. I challenged the class to go back to the anthem that we proudly heard sung at the march past, which, by the way, is both commonplace and miraculous at the same time. It's commonplace, as the member from Chatham-Kent Leamington knows, because he graduated there, to see the formality of the marches and the bands and the pipes, but it's miraculous to witness something incredible. People coming forward to help protect Ontario.
Well said.
And that day I said to the class, go back to the anthem that many of us take for granted. And it was only a week ago, this 1 week back, when we heard the singer in this chamber sing O Canada. And it's in its second stanza, those words, true patriot love, in all of us command. And I said to the class that day, what are we asked to be commanded to do? What is the command? And I said to the class, I think the command is to love our province and our country that much more. And today, as we talk about Bill 97, an important bill that addresses that the times that we are in are not historically something that we are used to. In my generation, and I know some of us were born the very same year, the member from Temiskaming Cochrane, my friend from Halliburton, and a few others who might be more anonymous. We were part of the generation that grew up as young kids in 1967, and we remember the theme song that Premier John Robarts, the legendary Premier of Ontario, had written. Ontario is a place to stand, and it's a place to grow. It invoked optimism. It invoked unleashing a spirit of pride. And I have to say that through the years from 1967, perhaps almost to the present, our pride waxed and waned, and we did not pay as much attention as we should to things that are important around us. I think in part what the times find us today and the dramatic implications of changes to our historic relationship with trading with our U.S. partner. I call our U.S. friends kin, which is another word for family, and it means that we've taken for granted, not only through my generation, but through my parents and their parents, that the U.S. and Canada have always been the closest of friends. And you know what? We are today as well. But what the trade implications of changing the ground rules and the tariffs that have been imposed on Canada has caused us to look back inwards. It's caused us to imagine Canada and in Ontario that we can be much more self-reliant on ourselves. It's asked us to be innovative. It's asked us to bring the best entrepreneurial spirit forward. It's asked us to make critical investments in our province in infrastructure never before imagined on a scale that we are now seeing in hospitals, in roads, in bridges, making investments in our public safety, making investments in our health care and in our education. And at the same time, staying true to what Premier Ford said, that this government under his leadership will never raise a tax. Because we believe, thank you, because we believe that governments have a role to play, but it's not taking your money every year incrementally over and over again. It's understanding that when people work hard, whatever they do, as tradesmen, as doctors, as lawyers, as academics, the money that people make is their money, and they should see it to make sure that their kids and their grandkids are taken care of. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill, for me, says a few things that I want to touch on. It talks about our resilience. It talks about that we're never giving up or giving in. But it talks about protecting Ontario also from a lens of public safety, something that I am passionate about. And again, I'll tell you why. In almost 4 years that I have had the highest honor of my life to be in the position of Solicitor General, I have witnessed over 6,000 people graduate the Ontario Police College. I've witnessed thousands of people join fire services and see them as they've received their helmets. I've seen our newest correctional officers, probation and parole officers come forward. I've seen people who want to be animal welfare inspectors. I've seen people that have joined the coroner's office and the Center of Forensic Science who have made a unilateral decision that I want to protect Ontario. And for that, and many more reasons, I felt my role was to be the Premier's ambassador, to travel as extensively as I have, and to send a message of confidence that we appreciate people coming forward to keep us safe. Because in the end of the day, the fundamental rights that we have, each universal, is to make sure that we can see our kids off to school in the morning safely, that we can go to work and shop, that we can play in the park, that we can worship, that we can go about our lives safely. This inherent right is something that is sacred to me and something that I uphold every single day in supporting those people that keep us safe. And for me and the Premier, protecting Ontario, as I've said many times, doesn't just mean anything. It actually means everything. So this budget that was tabled last week is a fiscal plan that also pays specific attention to our public safety. It's a plan that makes sure that the generational investments that we are making will strengthen the network of our public safety. It will say that Operation Deterrence, as an example, something that this government brought in recognition that the federal government, unfortunately, when it comes to border safety, can't do it alone. We have some of the most amazing OPP, First Nations, and municipal police services that have helped strengthen our border safety, reduce the amount of fentanyl and other illegal and illicit drugs coming into our country. And that's something that's been very personal. I said last week, as a matter of fact, in this chamber, I gave examples of how much fentanyl and other illicit drugs were taken off the street as a result of Operation Deterrence. This budget will build on the success of Operation Deterrence with an additional $32.5 million, and that's why we call it Operation Deterrence 2.0. And this includes a new border security grant for drones and marine units, a new surveillance technology. I had the privilege, again over the past year, to understand and see for myself just how large our border is with our American counterparts. You have to go from Cornwall all the way out to Fort Frances. It's over 2,000 kilometers. And while I didn't stop at every stop point that existed, I did stop at many. I stopped in Cornwall and Kingston. I stopped in Niagara. I stopped in Windsor. I stopped out in the Sioux. I stopped in Pigeon River just outside of beautiful Thunder Bay. And along the way, it dawned on me that we have taken for granted this large, unprotected border with the U.S. The U.S. has taken border safety incredibly seriously, and I want to acknowledge that. What we have to do from a Canadian standpoint, but from also an Ontario standpoint, is to mirror what they are doing to make sure that our borders remain safe. And this means stronger intelligence and better coordination and expanded policing capacity. So by doubling down on Operation Deterrence, we're sending a message that public safety matters. And I have to say, as I walk through my incredible community of York Centre, which is diverse and representative of many languages, and representative of people that have settled here and are proud of our community, that champion our diversity, we look at the fact that public safety means everything. And that's why our government, led by the Premier, has been incredibly unapologetic when it comes to standing up for a person's right to defend themselves in their own homes and to understand that our streets must be safe. And that means all across Ontario. And that's why we led by example the conversation on bail reform. And we want to always hold offenders to account. This means that the additional monies in this year's budget of $8.3 million into the Bail Compliance and Warrant Apprehension Grant Fund will send a further message that wherever you are in Ontario, if you are compelled to commit a crime, if you are compelled not to join the virtual everyone that can live lawfully, firstly, we're going to find you, and secondly, I've got a place for you in our jails. And that brings me to the next point. This budget specifically addresses a continuation of funding more money in our correctional system. I might add, Mr. Speaker, it was actually quite surprising for me. I'm a person that is supported by an incredible ministerial office team, and I want to thank them for the job they do every day. It's a labor of love to work together, but also on the constituency office side. I'm led by what I call my chief of staff in my constituency, Marlene, who I call the enforcer there, because she enforces my discipline and my diligence to help serve my constituents as hard as I do. When we talk about the investments we need to keep our communities safe, we go back to the investments we've made in corrections. And it's not just the thousands of people that have become correctional officers. It's not just that. It's not just the $500 million that we know are being spent, that we have intentionally decided to spend in our jails to make them more modern. It's not that alone. It's understanding that what the Ontario Liberals did for 15 years, we are still confronting their story of neglect. It's the 7 jails that they closed. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, I'm very close on announcing very soon that we will be reopening one in beautiful Brantford, Ontario. A jail that was not only closed by the Liberals, but they decided to renovate it right after they closed it. I'm going to make sure that jail is reopened. And under the leadership of Premier Ford, we will go down the line. The next one on our list is the Walkerton Jail, in the member's riding, Minister Thompson's riding, and I'm going to work hard to see if that can happen. The investments that we're making should also be transparent. And when I said to Ontarians exactly where I would open up new spaces in jails and build new jails, and I gave the timeline to which we would do it, we've never before had any precedent that the government would give exact details to the extent that we have. And just a few weeks ago, before we returned, I was with our government House Leader and the Premier in beautiful Brockville, to make another announcement that we are going to be re-expanding the jail in Brockville. And when you add the beds that we brought on in London at the RIC, which is the Regional Intermittent Centre, and the TIC, the Toronto Intermittent Centre, that will be opening back in a few weeks, when we go to the modular builds that were completed, when we go to the new jail in Thunder Bay that will be open just as we said we would, substantial completion later this year, beds to open to follow, we have been specific in every regard. And you know what? Ontarians appreciate it. They appreciate honesty. They appreciate transparency. And they appreciate when one person, when Premier Ford will stand up to say, we will as a government protect Ontario. And the 700 new hires in the correctional system, over and above everything else, which represents a tremendous investment in this budget, is another example how we're leaving no stone unturned. In the end of the day, I do believe that virtually everyone in Ontario wants to live lawfully. They want to respect their neighbours. They want to understand that Canada and the province of Ontario is a special place. And they have to always understand there's somebody there that will have their backs. I believe if we want to have the backs of everyone that keeps us safe, we have to make sure that the places that they are trained in are state-of-the-art. And the billion-dollar commitment to reimagine the Ontario Police College, that the member from Chatham-Kent-Leamington was there many years ago, has to be reimagined for a future generation. And our incredible people that are trained at the Ontario Provincial Police Academy in beautiful Orillia, Ontario, have to also envision a fully modern, renovated, innovative, imaginative place to be trained. And we're excited about that. But at the end of the day, I want to circle back to where I started. All of us, on all sides of this House, have a common thread. It doesn't matter what party we're from. It doesn't matter who in our family may have served in this chamber before, because the stories I still hear, yourself who's sitting in the chair, Mr. Speaker, it's a remarkable love for our province. If not now, when? If not now, with the greatest of urgency, please tell me, when would be a better time to stand up for the love we have for our province? And sometimes I look at our flags and I say, we can't just look at the flag as being a flag. This is our flag. Monsieur le Président, tous nos drapeaux, le Canadien, l'Ontarien et le Franco-Ontarien, ont de la significance. Ils représentent la fierté, la valeur de notre diversité et tout ce qu'il y a bien à nous. Notre province, Monsieur le Président, et notre pays ont déjà fait face à de graves défis. Et chaque fois, nous sommes sortis plus forts et plus unis. Et surtout, maintenant, nous ne devons pas sous-estimer la puissance de notre fierté en province et en nous-mêmes. It means that we have to take pride in our flag, in our identity, in everything that's special in our province. This budget gives us an opportunity to say to young and old, to say to my parents, to my own dad, Max, who'll be 95 later this year, and my mom, who's closing in just a few years behind, that everything they worked for, that everything their parents gave to them, that everything that is being passed to me, that everything I will pass to my children will be based on a common thread of love and respect for our province. Nothing should come in the way, especially now, of standing up to protect Ontario on the common thread that we all share. It's been a privilege to speak to this bill today, and I yield the floor to my friend from Parry Sound, Muskoka.